Hey guys, so today we're looking at the second part of the Second Crusade by Kings and Generals. If you want to watch the original video by Kings and Generals, the link is down in the description down below. And if you want to help support my channel, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and maybe consider joining Patreon or being a YouTube member. It would really help my very small but humble channel out, and I would appreciate it very much. Now, with that said, and now without any further ado, let's get to it, shall we? Let us watch The Second Crusade, Part 2, by Kings and Generals.
The name of the struggle also extended outside the battlefield. The victorious Ilghazi ordered that every Antiochene survivor was to be pursued and hunted down.
Oh no.
Every Frankish knight or servant was slaughtered by Ilghazi in local vineyards. Ilghazi himself chased the remaining Latin force of Renal Mazois, who had fled and barricaded himself inside the fortress of Samada. Renal, being well aware that he was heavily wounded and his men could not withstand a siege, began talks with the Artukid chief. During these talks, Ilghazi was firmly impressed by Mazois' courage, and so allowed him to surrender and return to inform Antioch about his defeat. The same could not be said about the rest of his companions, who were massacred by Ilghazi's men on the spot. In the end, only around 70 Latin knights were taken captive, being dragged by Ilghazi all the way.
Oh, only... Okay, so last video we covered that the full force that Roger had assembled was 7 to 11,000. So the disaster to think that with the main battle and them being pursued, I'd imagine it was almost like almost the entire army got wiped out, right? I mean, I could be wrong. We don't know how many, but like, I don't know. That's telling. That's Ilghazi he crushed them completely.
To Aleppo, they became a major part of his victorious procession throughout the city. As the grand celebrations were over, all Frankish prisoners were executed by its inhabitants.
Oh.
Thanks to his victorious endeavor, Ilghazi's authority and prestige spread across the Muslim world.
Dang.
For his triumph, the Artukid leader was rewarded by the Caliph himself, who titled the Atabeg as a star of religion, in other words, a spiritual guide of Sunni Islam. Despite having achieved a total victory, Ilghazi didn't press his army to attack Antioch. Many historians criticized him for this decision. However, it is very important to consider that Ilghazi likely did not have enough supply and siege equipment to lay a proper siege or break through the strong walls of Antioch.
Okay, so wait.
He couldn't be certain whether Jerusalem and Tripoli would approach him on Antioch.
Okay, so I was thinking he completely destroyed the army of Antioch, so I was worried he's about to take it, but all this means is Antioch can maybe have time to recover, maybe, but again, I feel like they've just been crippled in a sense, you know? So, I don't know.
Keen territory with another Christian army. For the moment, Ilghazi's main objective had been achieved. The city of Aleppo was saved from an encirclement. So Antioch was safe from the Artukids for the time being.
Dude, Roger messed around and found out, because he tried to encircle Aleppo and literally Ilghazi Uno reverse card him, surrounded him, and destroyed him. It's kind of amazing. Yeah, completely dog walked him, you know?
Antioch's confrontation with Ilghazi at Ager-Sanguinis ended up as a disaster for the Latins in Syria. Its renowned leader, Roger of Salerno, was dead, and almost every experienced knight who served with Beaumont and Tancred was killed.
Wow.
Moreover, the Antiochene...
Dude, that sucks so hard, man. Oh, lost all kinds of precious Again, the manpower, I've said this before. It seems to me that the Crusader states definitely have a manpower shortage. You know, like they can't rally probably as much as they could like back in Europe, I'd imagine. So to lose as many men as they did in one battle like that, so much experience, not only does it severely hamper their manpower, but just like the quality of their troops. So that battle, like a part of me is thinking it's gonna have long-term repercussions for Antioch, because I don't know if they can. I don't see how it couldn't. Like Antioch got really effed up there.
Part of the Holy Cross was lost to the Saracens, the Principality of Antioch was defenseless, and the Latin presence in Syria was in jeopardy. The event that took place at the Field of Blood sent shockwaves across the entirety of Syria. As soon as Renal of Mozoir arrived in Antioch, announcing the Latin defeat, the citizens of that city were stricken by panic. Only the local patriarch, Bernard of Valence, and Roger's widow, Cécile, managed to ease the tensions. Temporarily taking charge of the city, Bernard ordered the people of Antioch to mount their heavily fortified walls and gather supplies for any possible attack. Nevertheless, with Roger of Salerno and his army gone, the city of Antioch was practically defenseless against the might of Ilghazi. The victorious Artukid had sent several raiding parties, including some which had reached as far as St. Simeon's harbour, and even managed to reach and sack the outskirts of Antioch itself. The de facto ruler of Antioch, Bohemond II, was still too immature to rule, so Antioch's fate lay in the hands of Baldwin II, King of Jerusalem. Together with...
Yeah, Antioch is completely defenseless. They can't do anything. Completely powerless. So they basically have to rely on literally Jerusalem to save them. Wow, what a humiliating place to be in, you know?
Pont of Tripoli and Josselin of Courtenay, Le Bourg had already assembled a powerful host under the relic of Jerusalem's Holy Cross. Previously, they attempted to reinforce Roger's army. However, upon hearing of Antioch's defeat at Latakia, the undeterred Baldwin II rushed his force further north to aid the city as quickly as possible. This forced march had paid off for Le Bourg. When the Jerusalem and Tripolitan armies had entered the Principality, they encountered not the bulk of Ilghazi's army, but only a few small Turkoman raiding parties, which they managed to easily repel from the city's outskirts. On the first days of August 1119, just a week after the Battle of Agères-Saint-Genis, King Baldwin Le Bourg, Pont and Josselin entered Antioch. Relieved by Baldwin's arrival, the entire city welcomed the King of Jerusalem as a hero. Baldwin II took command of the city with the Patriarch's permission, and called for every remaining knight in the Principality to prepare for an inevitable showdown with the Artukid warlord. He also guaranteed safety for Antiochene citizens by sending several squadrons out to drive off any additional waves of Turkoman raiders back beyond the Orontes River. With the matters near Antioch secured, Baldwin Le Bourg could finally focus all his efforts on dealing with the threat of Ilghazi. Meanwhile, in Aleppo,
Alright, Baldwin, the ball is in your court. Now Baldwin has to kind of be the hero of the Crusader states. It makes sense, considering last video we kind of established that all the other states, like Antioch and whatnot, basically claim to be the vassals of Jerusalem. In a way, Jerusalem and Baldwin is kind of the main guy of the Crusader states, as a whole. He has to now kind of step up and be the hero and stop Ilghazi, who's now becoming the biggest threat already. So that's a lot. I'm wondering if Baldwin can pull it off. Because Ilghazi definitely isn't an idiot. He's proven himself as a capable enemy. So yeah, Baldwin might have his hands full with that one.
Ilghazi had celebrated his victory over Roger by massacring all remaining Antiochene knights in his captivity.
My goodness.
Despite winning a decisive engagement, the Artukid leader realized that he needed to possess more men to overwhelm Antioch itself. Thus, he decided to seize bordering Latin towns and castles east of the Orontes River in order to secure them as potential bases for his campaigns in the future. Ilghazi's ambitions to seize Antioch proper were bolstered when his Damascene ally Tughtekin joined the Artukid force. This allowed the Lord of Mardin and Aleppo to nearly double the size of his forces.
Oh no.
His confidence grew even stronger when he finally moved towards the Antiochian border and besieged neighbouring castles, starting with Athrib. Athrib's feudal lord, Alor, had not been present due to Baldwin Labor's orders to rally all the Latin forces in Antioch. Because of this, the Antiochian fortresses to the east were basically defenceless. Without hesitation, Kerep, Athrib, and many other bordering castles surrendered to the Artakids on the condition that all the Christians within should be spared and allowed to retreat to Antioch safely, which Ilghazi surprisingly often agreed to. This was the fate of the crucial fortress of Zardana, governed by Robert the Leper. Yet again, the absence of the castle's lord and the lack of a properly established
Oh my goodness. Okay. So this isn't looking good at all, man. Like Ilghazi is just literally playing on easy mode now. Like taking everything left and right. And mainly because Baldwin is trying to get everyone to assemble together, and he's gonna need it because like Ilghazi has the manpower now. He has not only his army but his allies' army. So like yeah, Baldwin's gonna need all hands on deck, as it were, for this final epic showdown. This feels so climactic, like the build-up. I feel like this should be like the end of something, like a series. But no, we're still in the very beginning. I don't even think we're in the actual Second Crusade yet, which is the funniest thing. But it already feels like things are gonna be so climactic. And yeah, the Principality of Antioch, which, like I said, when we were watching the first Crusade series, Antioch and Jerusalem both seemed to be evenly, like, prestigious. And, like, I think definitely it was a part of Bohemon's leadership, considering Bohemond the First, was a very capable general. But man, after his reign, it seems like Antioch fell off hard, because especially now, they are basically they don't have an army, they are defenseless, and at the mercy of their enemies. So man, how the mighty fall. It's kind of like, I don't know, like at this point, it's really all Jerusalem now.
chain of command during his absence forced the defenders to surrender to the Artakids. The successful capture of all these fortresses paved the way for Ilghazi to strike at his next target, the city of Antioch itself. By that time, Baldwin II had already arrived at the Principality's capital and rallied the knights from Antioch, Edessa, Tripoli and Jerusalem to face off the Artakid onslaught. As the retreating troops and civilians from Athrib and Zardana gave word about the Saracens breaking through the Latin frontier, the king couldn't wait any longer. Baldwin II had already been aware that without relieving these strongholds, the city of Antioch would constantly be threatened by Muslim atabegs. After the army had been blessed by Ebramar, Bishop of Caesarea, on the 10th of August 1119, Labor marched out of Antioch with a significant force, attempting to reinforce the eastern Antiochian territories, starting with the castle of Zardana. The Latin army went through abandoned Kerep and Rusia to attack Ilghazi from the south. The Latins' vanguard was led by the king, accompanied by the Holy Cross of Jerusalem. At first, the king of Jerusalem attempted to rescue Zardana's garrison, but just 2 days later, the news reached the Latins about its surrender. After this, Baldwin decided to retreat to quarter in Hab in order to replenish all the necessary supplies. King Baldwin Labor knew that Ilghazi would not pass up an opportunity to ambush the Christian army, and that their inevitable headlong clash with the Artakid seemed unavoidable. As the Frankish host was passing through the road to the city of Hab, all of Baldwin's suspicions proved to be correct. On the 14th of August 1119, the Latin army was greeted by Turkoman skirmishers who suddenly appeared on the horizon. They were part of Ilghazi's vanguard, who started to rain down their arrows upon the Crusader column. However, King Baldwin II was experienced with Saracen hit-and-run tactics, so he wisely decided not to take the bait. Instead,
Okay, smart on Baldwin. Baldwin's already making pretty good moves, unlike Roger. He's anticipating the attack. He's aware of, you know, the feigned retreats, the hit and run tactics. He's not falling for that crap. So, okay, Baldwin, like, good on him.
He ordered the Latin forces to form a line divided into 9 squadrons, formed into 4 key segments. The right flank was led by Tripolitan knights, led by their Count Pont, while the left, commanded by Robert the Leper, consisted of the remaining Antiochene knights. At the centre, the king deployed his vanguard of 3 knightly contingents, covered by the missile and melee Latin infantry. Despite possessing heavier horsemen, Baldwin II's cavalry lacked numerical superiority. Numbering only 700 knights, with additional sergeants and Turcopoles, Lebor had been all too aware of potential encirclement by the enemy, so he created a second line of reserves that included his forces from Jerusalem. On the other side,
oh my gosh, the man, dude, I just gasp that this, yeah, they are outnumbered. But then again, as we've seen before many times, and I have to keep saying this every time it's brought up, it is numerical superiority isn't everything, and we've seen numerical superiority perish all the time, in fact. So, but still, that just shocked me just to see how outnumbered they are. You know what I mean? And yeah. They're kind of in a crescent formation, which, if I'm remembering correctly, was very utilized for flanking and enveloping and surrounding, you know. So, dang, Baldwin, this is the showdown. Dude, I'm nervous. I feel like Baldwin's gonna lose. I don't know why I'm getting that vibe in my heart, but I'm having the feeling that Baldwin's not gonna pull off the victory that the Crusaders desperately need. And I don't know why I'm feeling like this. I could be wrong, but we'll see. We'll see. I at least know with hindsight that obviously the Kingdom of Jerusalem is gonna continue into the third, well, you know, the third Crusade's actually to get it back, but it's gonna continue for a bit until Saladin takes it. So, it, well, no, that, but like, dang, I guess we'll see. I shouldn't be such a negative Nancy. Maybe Baldwin might be able to pull it off, but I don't know, man. Like, Ilghazi has proven himself. We've seen what he's capable of, you know? So, I don't know.
He took positions on the left flank, comprised of his Turkoman and elite Gulam horsemen stationed in front of the Franks. Behind them were deployed infantry bands from Mardin and Aleppo, supported by the light Kurdish missile units. To the Muslim right, Toktekin prepared his forces in the same manner as Ilghazi, by deploying his cavalry on the front line of the battle, while his infantry militias from Damascus and Homs were put at the back of the formation. As both sides managed to complete their deployment, the battle for the future of Latin Syria soon commenced. The clash started with shouts and the noise of the trumpets and drums of each side, which was quickly cut short by a volley of Seljuk arrow fire, to which Latin archers and crossbowmen eagerly reciprocated. As ammunition stocks began to shrink, both sides prepared for melee engagement. Confident in his victory, Ilghazi and Toktekin ordered a full-scale assault on the Crusaders. The first attack came from the Artikid Turkic horsemen, who attacked the Frankish right flank. This fearsome charge almost managed to break the Tripolitan contingent entirely. Some of the Tripolitan knights panicked and fled the battle. Several of them even rode to Antioch, already announcing the defeat of the Latin host.
Oh, no.
However, Pont of Tripoli and his retainers managed to withstand the charge, and with a few of his knights hid behind the Tripolitan Latin footmen, who managed to hold their ground, while simultaneously closing the distance between themselves and Baldwin's centre. On the left flank, Robert the Leper, Count of Zardana, charged and broke through Toktekin's contingent from Homs. However, Robert did not intend to flank the Artikid force, intending instead to rush and retake his home castle of Zardana. Initially, all seemed...
Okay, so dang, that... I don't think that's a good move to make right now. Like, again, Robert just had the best breakthrough. If he could, like, attack on the flanks or wings, this could really help. But leaving the battlefield after I feel like that's a waste of a good opportunity on Robert's part. I mean, I understand he wants to save his place, but like logically, wouldn't destroying the enemy who took it and there might be better and then moving on? Like, I don't know. That's just me. I don't think that's a good move, but then again, I guess we'll see. Like, this could still maybe be salvaged. I guess we'll see.
Intending instead to rush and retake his home castle of Zardana. Initially, all seemed to go as planned for him, but as the pursuit was coming close to the castle, the Saracens had time to regroup. Realizing they were only chased by a small contingent of knights, they decided to turn back and clash with the Frankish pursuers. Disregarding any potential signs of a trap, Robert and his Antiochene knights were ambushed near the walls of Zardana. In this scuffle, Robert fell off his horse and became a prisoner of Ilghazi's men. The remnants of Toghtekin and Ilghazi's force were so preoccupied with the Lord of Zardana that they didn't see an opportunity to exploit the Crusaders' left flank. Upon seeing that...
Okay, wait, let me get that again, though.
Remnants of Toghtekin and Ilghazi's force were so preoccupied with the Lord of Zardana that they didn't see an opportunity to exploit the Crusaders' left flank.
Ooh, okay, this could be, I feel like this could be the key moment, right? Because I'm like, also, let me quickly comment, yeah, Robert made a really dumb decision there, that was stupid of him, but maybe things can still be salvaged, though, because if Toghtekin isn't gonna hit them from the flank, Baldwin has reserves, so maybe he can use the gap instead. I don't know, I feel like this must be the moment, right? Where one side is going to take advantage of the vacant left being abandoned.
Upon seeing that tactical error, Baldwin II attempted to prepare his counterattack to repel Ilghazi himself. Because the main Artikid assault came on the Latins' right flank, the infantry from the center were relatively fresh, with only knights from the vanguard taking heavy losses, who started to push back Ilghazi's infantry from the center. Baldwin Labor also used his remaining reserves of Jerusalem knights to charge the advancing Saracen force from the rear. After a brutal melee...
The flank, the oldest trick in the book. Okay, I knew it. I knew it was gonna come into play.
...and clever maneuver, the reinforced Latin forces managed to push the Artikid center back and aid their ailing flanks. Seeing no way to break through the Jerusalem and Tripolitan line, Ilghazi retreated from the battlefield in an orderly manner. The number of casualties at the Battle of Hab is hard to estimate. We only know from Archbishop William of Tyre that the forces of Jerusalem and their vassals lost around 700 infantrymen and 100 knights, while the Artikid casualties remain unknown, though it is very likely that their casualties were similar if not slightly higher. As soon as the dust settled, Baldwin II, with his remaining troops on the battlefield, claimed victory and returned to Antioch.
Okay, so I'm sorry, Baldwin. I was being a negative Nancy earlier, and I thought you were gonna like not have a decisive victory. Well, I'd call this like a good victory in a sense for the Crusaders, and that they weren't destroyed, and but it's definitely like a morale victory, I think. But point is, I apologize, Baldwin. I doubted you a bit too much there.
Where he was greeted by the citizens as their savior. Along the way, the King of Jerusalem reclaimed the fortresses of Samen and Kafatab, previously taken by Ilghazi after Ager-Sanguinis. The next target of Baldwin's wrath was the fortress of Marat an-Numan and Rusa, which were held by the Munakadites of Shaizar. Soon, all of these key strongholds surrendered, and the remaining Muslim-controlled castles in the Principality of Antioch followed suit, all except Atharib and Zardana. Simultaneously, Ilghazi and Toghtekin went to Aleppo and announced that it was the Muslims who had won the battle because of the sheer number of prisoners they had taken. including important Antiochian baron Robert the Leper. The Atabegs also found themselves in dire need of funds and attempted to ransom the captives for a considerable price. Though reluctant, Robert agreed on a large sum of 10,000 dinars. However, when they asked Robert to convert to Islam as well, he refused. Angered by this factor, Tughtekin decided to execute the nobleman during captivity, much to Ilghazi's dismay. Who exactly won the Syrian campaign of 1119 in Syria and the Battle of Hab remains a hard question for modern scholars to answer, but the major academic consensus is that it had been a clear draw between the Latins and the Muslims. The Crusader states managed to avenge Antioch's defeat at Ager-Songini's and save the principality from certain demise. However, the Latins paid for it at the cost of diminishing Latin presence in northern Syria. Ilghazi, on the other hand, despite gaining a great victory at Ager-Songini's and severely weakening the Antiochian force at Hab, was still unable to exploit his victory and take Antioch itself. The failure to annihilate the principality had cost Ilghazi dearly, and the western expansion of the Artakids was dramatically stopped. Thus, with all factors considered, despite the draw on the numerical and tactical side, it was the Crusader army that achieved the greater strategic victory by cutting short Ilghazi's expansion, an achievement made even more impressive by the fact that it was done on the heels of a major military disaster at Ager-Songini's.
Okay, I agree with that assessment, because even I was thinking, like, okay, so Ilghazi won a great victory, but could not fully capitalize on it. His advance got checked. Yeah, okay. I agree with Kings and Generals on this one. Though I feel like you could definitely just put the label draw overall, but there are factors that you could make an argument for both sides. So overall, yeah, good on Baldwin for at least checking Ilghazi. Dang, where do we go from here though? Well, that's for me to find out tomorrow. In which I'll see you guys then. Bye everyone.